Hello friends, good morning to you. I'm in New Smyrna Beach today, walking in this place called AM Cafe. Never been here before. Been to New Smyrna Beach, just never been to AM Cafe. And I've also never been to the next place that we're gonna go today. Well, you and me are gonna go to this next place. I've got to stop at another place in between, but never mind. Welcome to the AM Cafe. Everything, hello, that I hoped. Turns out I had been to the AM Cafe. Remember, as soon as I sat down, I ordered biscuits and gravy, in case you care to know. Why do you really care? Anyway, AM Cafe, it's good stuff. And got my decaf. AM Cafe was really nice joint. So far as I could tell on Google Maps, it was the only small hometown type of place like it. Everything else is a Dunkin' or whatever. Is that what you call it now? Dunkin'? You don't go by Dunkin' Donuts? I don't know what they're doing. Anyway, got my to-go decaf and ready for the day.
Usually there's thunderstorm in the morning, but otherwise it'll be partly sunny and a humid day with highs around 85 to 89. On Wednesday, partly sunny with a few isolated rain showers by the afternoon.
Welcome to the Cruger-dePeyster Sugar Mill, or what's known as the old sugar mill ruins here in New Smyrna Beach. Cool. Back in 1830, Henry Cruger and William DePeyster acquired 600 acres of land right here with the intention of building a sugar mill and a sawmill. And this was it. This is what they built. The life of this establishment did not last long. 5 years later, in 1835, the Seminole Indians came by and destroyed this sugar mill. And the people that ran this, the slaves that ran this sugar mill, and the owner of the property fled. They took off and hid from the Indians. The Indians burned it all down, left the equipment here. There's a couple pieces of equipment still left. I see we can check out. This was a short-lived sugar mill, but one of the reasons why New Smyrna in this area was established and still exists today. Wow. You have the area blocked off so you can't walk through the mill, but it's still cool to check it all out. It's a big tree, huh? It's all blocked off to avoid graffiti artists and people carving their initials and those they love into the Coquina walls. See up close here how easy it is for people to carve in it. There's not much to it, it's just shell and falls apart pretty easily. Back in 1894, Bradford Torrey, a writer for Atlantic Monthly, published an article about this sugar mill. He thought it was a really cool place and said he thought maybe it was built by Columbus himself. There was some speculation on what this actually was or what the origin of the sugar mill was. So the rumor started that this was actually built by Christopher Columbus himself, which is not true. There's still some stories going around about what the origin is. Some locals think that it's not actually built as a sugar mill, but it was a mission at one point, but that's been proven to be false. So what some people think is a place of religious origin by Christopher Columbus is actually just a sugar factory that did in fact get overrun by Indians and burned down. In fact, they took all of the machinery and a lot of the Coquina blocks that it was made with to nearby Port Orange, where it was used in another sugar mill. I assume that some of the things we see around here, like these big cauldrons back here, and some of the other equipment were original. I'm not for sure just yet. This placard explains how the sugar making process happened. This was a steam powered plant. It would heat the sugar until liquefied, and then the crystallized sugar was packed into barrels. They would ship them off. Those are the things that they heated the sugar in. Some serious crushing power right there. This piece of equipment was found on the property sometime after the Indians had destroyed it. It was part of the sawmill. It was made to take the power from the steam motor and disperse the energy appropriately to the saw blade. Here you see kind of how it worked. It's like a foundation for another outbuilding here. It's also been blocked off. Not all sugar mills were steam driven like this one. You can see here a picture of a very happy lady operating this steam sugar mill. This is actually the steam powered mill that was here on site, but was moved to Port Orange at the Dunlawton Plantation or sugar factory. But here is a example of another style of sugar cane crusher, a mill that was operated by horses. You've probably seen something like this before, where there'd be a bar that went across there, and then a horse on either side would just keep twisting and twisting around, and they would put the cane down and it would grind out the juice. Old way of doing things, huh? Kind of cool. There's another mill very similar to it. You can see a little better on how it worked. The sugar cane would go right into that opening on the side, get crushed around, and then the juice would run right out here in the spout into probably some kind of a container like we saw over there on the side of the sugar mill itself. These small mills were not part of this sugar mill. These were just extra brought in for examples, so you and I can see what the sugar milling industry was kind of like. So, cool. Here you can see one of those cauldrons or a vat. I'm not exactly sure what you would label this big container, but this is where they would put the sugar juice and boil it. Have a toasty fire underneath and billowing smoke out the top. As I'm looking at this and then looking at the size of the sugar mill behind me, I'm just wondering what the scent was. I've never been around sugar milling before. I don't know what it smells like. I don't know if there is a smell. Does it just smell like smoke? Or how do they do it now? I'm not really sure. But it would be interesting to see what this was like, or how it operated, and how much work it really took, and what all goes into milling this sugar. They only did it for 5 years, but looked like it was worth the effort to build the building. At least there must have been a lot of money in it, and somehow worth their venture for a while. If you notice here, you can see the ridge line of where the roof used to go. Huh. Like seeing those old doorways too. This placard is pretty cool. It talks about the coquina. Gives you a chance to see it up close, touch it. Coquina stands for tiny shell. All the coquina for this building was quarried nearby. For those of you interested in our exact whereabouts, I will put a GPS coordinate below in the description. We're in Volusia County on the east coast of Florida. Cool place on the planet. I really enjoy stuff like this, learning about some local history. I especially love Florida history, Ohio history, and Oklahoma history, these places where I've lived and spent some time. But this is cool. I like this. I like being able to get in it and see what it was like to walk amongst these walls and just be in this space. You know, the feeling of your surroundings out here are unique, and the temperature and the time of year we're in, I wonder what was it like if they were working today, grinding all that sugar. Was it terribly hot? Because it's pretty warm today. It's about 93 degrees at a high. It's supposed to be hot all week. I'm sure around these fires and whatever the process wasn't easy. It was all run by slave labor, as I said earlier. So I don't expect it to be a real glamorous job, but it could have been kind of sweet in some parts of it. Turns out producing sugar was a hot, dangerous job because the workers would sometimes get pulled into the crusher. Producing sugar was kind of like oil is today. It was very dangerous, a lot of risks involved, and because of the risk of human life, the price of sugar was very high. Right next to the sugar mill is this informational board. Doesn't have a whole lot here. It does tell some interesting facts. Most of what I read on here I've already told you. But there's something interesting that I did not know, that the slaves that worked at the sugar mill actually assisted the Indians in burning the place down. And why wouldn't you? Not all slaves were treated poorly, but for the most part, I think we can assume that it was not a very good lifestyle. So for the slaves that worked here, or slaved here, wouldn't you assist the Indians too? Who's to say if old John, their slave master, was a really terrible person? But in light of the idea that someone would force one to show up to work, just force them against their will, well, clearly I'm on the side of freedom. So it is an interesting place to be respected here at the sugar mill, and a place we can learn about our own culture and our history, and I do appreciate that. Friends, I appreciate you joining me today at the old sugar mill ruins here in New Smyrna Beach, Florida. Thanks for coming out today and helping me explore this cool place on the planet. I'll see you in the next video.